it's Rachel here. I'm just making this video because it's become quite clear to me that many Jehovah's Witnesses do not understand that it is not the practice of elders to report child sexual abuse to the authorities. Many felt quite, reassured that the elders do in fact report child sexual abuse after reading this magazine, which was studied a few months ago. This is the May Watchtower 2019. But it doesn't actually say in the article here that we'll look at that the elders will report to the secular authority. They're really reading into this article more than what it actually says here. So in this article, Love and Justice in the Face of Wickedness, it has a subheading that's, well, it's actually the subheading is Handling Instances of Serious Wrongdoing. And paragraph 13, it starts out with this question: do elders comply with secular laws about reporting an allegation of child abuse to the secular authorities? And they answer, yes. So perhaps that's all that the Jehovah's Witnesses have stuck in their brain. The very next sentence, though, says, in places where such laws exist, elders endeavour to comply with secular laws about reporting allegations of abuse. So only in places where that law exists. In many countries, not backward developing countries, but in supposed Western lands, such as where I am in New Zealand and in the UK, there are no mandated reporting laws. None at all. And I think Jehovah's Witnesses might be kind of a bit surprised about that. That they might assume that being such a serious crime against children, that of course there'd be a law that mandated the reporting of it by people in authority or positions where they might have oversight of children. So they're making assumptions. So here it says that the elders endeavour to comply with secular laws. So it's an interesting use of the word endeavour there. I mean, they either do or they don't. Bit weird. And they use that word again in paragraph 16. It says here, when they learn that someone in the congregation is accused of child abuse, elders endeavour to comply with any secular laws about reporting the matter, and then they conduct a scriptural investigation. So they endeavour to comply with any secular laws. So if there are no secular laws that require reporting, then they do not report. That is standard practice for the organisation. Even in those places where there is mandated reporting, like many states in America, they still get out of reporting by claiming that they have the clergy penitent privilege. So rather than endeavouring to comply, they endeavour not to comply, or at least they endeavour not to report. That is their practice, not to report. And we have proof of this. Recently, this was in the news. Court reverses $35 million verdict against Jehovah's Witnesses. So what had happened, this two victims of child sexual abuse in Montana had been awarded $35 million by the court because the elders in the congregation and the organisation had failed to alert the authorities that there was a person in the congregation who was sexually abusing these two victims. This man was known to the organisation before he went on to victimise the second girl. So the ruling was that the organisation would have to pay out $35 million to at least to the second victim. But the Jehovah's Witnesses organisation took this to the Montana Supreme Court, and the court actually reversed the verdict against Jehovah's Witnesses. Why was that? Well, I might read a little bit of this later, but for now I'm just going to read a quote from the very excellent article written by Mark O'Donnell on JW Survey. He gives a very comprehensive overview of the whole case, and then the Supreme Court's, well, the Montana Supreme Court's reversal. And I'll just read this. I'll put this in front of the screen so you can read it at the same time as I read it. I'll just find where it is. Okay. So Justice Baker, one of those 7 justices that were on the suit in the Montana Supreme Court, this is what she said. Okay. In concluding her opinion, Justice Baker summarised the unexpected result, that's of the reversal, because we weren't expecting it. We hold accordingly that the undisputed material facts in the summary judgment record demonstrates as a matter of law that Jehovah's Witnesses were not mandatory reporters under 41.3.201 MCA. In this case, because their church doctrine, canon or practice required that clergy keep reports of child abuse confidential, thus entitling the defendants to the exception of blah 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 blah, which says that, if you look that up, it says that if something is told to them in with confidentiality, then they don't have to report it. The reporting statute as written accommodates Jehovah's Witnesses' definition and practice of confidentiality. So what the Jehovah's Witnesses, the organisation, had convinced the court of was that their church practice requires allows a number of, because you think confidentiality, like with the clergy penitent privilege, is between a priest and a confessor in the confessional box. That's what you think of, isn't it? A one-on-one thing. But the witnesses said it was to narrow its definition down was discriminatory towards Jehovah's Witnesses, because when they handle child sexual abuse allegations, information, that it's necessary that a number of elders may know about it, because you may have the 3 elders on a judicial committee meeting, they ring through to the branch, speak to brothers in the legal department, the service department, there's correspondence back and forth, other people in the congregation may be notified, so there's none of this one-on-one keeping things between just 2 people. But the organisation managed to convince the court that this could still be construed as keeping it confidential. Crazy. So anyway, let me read you what else it said, what John writes. So this is John writing from the JW Survey article. The obvious question raised here is whether the need to accommodate the Jehovah's Witness practice of conducting intensive internal child abuse investigation outweighs the duty to report acts of unspeakable sexual abuse to children. The reaction to this ruling has already generated widespread, I hope you can see that, widespread shock and anger among victims of child abuse and supporters of mandatory reporting law. In an exclusive statement to JW Survey, plaintiff's attorney Neil Smith said, "This is a sad day for victims. This is a sad day for victims of child abuse in Montana. Instead of treating individuals and businesses equally in the eyes of the law, this opinion gives preferential treatment to churches, especially the Jehovah's Witnesses, to write their own laws about when they will and when they will not report child abuse." kind of shocking, isn't it? And I think most Jehovah's Witnesses who are not elders and not privy to the information in the Shepherd the Flock of God book, which tells them how to handle allegations of sexual abuse, they would be absolutely shocked, horrified, disgusted. I did come across, Bridget A to AZ on YouTube. She came across a very good article in the Watchtower Library going back to 1958, and it was about the confessional, the Catholic confessional, and they were scathing about it because, and they cited some examples where innocent people suffered because of clergy penitent privilege, them not reporting to the authorities knowledge of a crime. And the organisation thought this was a terrible thing, yet it's exactly what they do. They do the same thing. So the same, the Catholic Church claim clergy penitent privilege so as not to have to make known fellow clergy members who have sexually abused children. And these clergy have gone on to abuse other children. And this is actually what the Jehovah's Witness organisation is doing, saying we don't have to report to the authorities because we have clergy penitent privilege and we are allowed to handle it our way according to our own practice. No different, just like the Catholic Church. Anyway, I've probably not got my words out properly, but I hope you investigate this more fully for yourself, and please do have a look at jwsurvey.org and look for the very good article by Mark O'Donnell. It will open your eyes. Okay, bye.